We'll begin with our opening statements. Brandon, you'll start. You'll have 1 minute, and then we'll hear from Ryan.
Excellent. Good afternoon, everybody. How you doing? Yeah. Good to hear you're doing well. Thanks for coming out to these debates. My name's Brandon Day. I'm running to be your student body president, and I am with the U Party. For your information, I've been involved in SUUSA for 2 years. I was a special projects coordinator and worked directly with a director of special projects, and we received assignments from President TJ Nelson, and then have been an event director this year. I've been involved in various parts of leadership. I've been involved in many ways with each one of you and many other students around campus. And the best thing that we have to offer is our amazing team. We have a great, diverse party, and we are here for you.
Good afternoon, I'm Ryan Bailey. I'm running for student body president with the Innovate Party. First, I want to congratulate Brandon on making it through the primaries, as well as everyone who has debated. It's been a fun time. I've been involved at SUU since the second semester I got here because I figured out that's the best way to do SUU. This year I've served as vice president of athletics in the student association. Last year I volunteered with SUSA. I've also served as an orientation leader, and I'm a team leader here, as well as various other club and organizational leadership positions. I love SUU, and that's not the only reason that I'm doing this. I want to enhance the experience here at SUU for every student, no matter who you are or where you're from. I could not have accomplished college in any way, I've been successful at all if it wasn't for SU and how easy it is to be involved. And I feel like I can do anything here. And I want every student to feel that way, because I don't necessarily think that's how it is, but that's how I want to make it. So thank you for coming, and we'll see what happens.
In your opinion, what are the 3 most important duties of the student body president?
Okay. First of all, I think it's important that the student body president is a face for the university. That they know who he is or she and who they are. So not only they can go to them with concerns, but they can hold them accountable. Second, it's an advocate the student voice, whether it's fees, academics, activities, you name it. They need to be someone who represents more than just as a face, but actually with their concerns. And last but not least, it's someone who supports organizations, that goes out to events, whether they be clubs within SUSA or not, but also academic and other initiatives.
The student body president is here to advocate for you. We are here to receive your feedback and take it to the administration. The student body president is a voting member of the board of trustees and sits on the president's council, among many other committees around campus. We, as the student body president, also oversee SUUSA, the other vice presidents and directors, and we need to have that function well so that we can best represent you and advocate for you in all that we do.
Your platform states that you are ready to improve the EDGE project. There has been a strong discord among students concerning whether or not SU should continue moving forward with EDGE. Do you agree with the students that advocating for the application of the removal of EDGE? Why or why not? If not, what improvements do you feel are necessary?
Great question. The EDGE is not going away. It's here to stay. It was brought by students. It's been continuing to have great feedback. It's a brilliant way to brand ourselves, especially with the rebranding that is occurring. So we need to improve it. I sat down with Todd Peterson on Friday for 2 hours and began that discussion and are ready to continue. He is ready to implement unique EDGE projects. The first of which that he is looking at is to make a unique project for veterans and their unique experiences. They want to help the process to be easier for you as students. And above and beyond that, it's helping students to understand why the EDGE is there and how it can benefit them. 87% of employers, when surveyed, said that they were most likely to hire a student who had done a project longer than a semester, and that's a crucial number for keeping the EDGE project.
Do you really believe it is possible to unite the campus as a whole? How do you propose to unite us all? And is unity always the best thing?
Thank you for that question. I believe that unity in your campus can take you farther than maybe hard work in a sense. Now let me explain that. A lot of times we compete against ourselves at this school. Events are planned against each other. Communication is very poor. And with better, clear communication and collaboration, we're able to support each other more, and then therefore take better school pride and spirit with us. And when you know that everyone in this school is for each other and supporting each other, then we can take more strides towards positive thinking. Now, is it going to happen overnight? No. And I think that people like President Jeff Hertzig have taken steps in the right way. But with a new president and a new vice president of student affairs, I believe that with my personality, my drive, my vision, and my team's vision in Innovate, that we would be able to continue that foundation and take great strides. But all it is going to take better communication and collaboration with departments and organizations on campus.
So this question is for both our candidates, Ryan and then Brandon, and you'll have 30 seconds to respond. What makes you unique from your opponent, and how does this uniqueness better qualify you to be student body president?
I think my experience as a whole makes me a little more unique than Brandon. Not saying he isn't experienced, but I have been a vice president in the student association already, as well as I've worked with organizations like orientation, where we see new students come in and we see that excitement, and now it's taking that excitement of coming to SU and changing SU, which is a huge process. But I'm very welcome, opening, friendly, and outgoing. Not that these things aren't Brandon, but I feel like especially they are my strengths.
Excellent. I would agree, Ryan is a great man. However, we are different. I feel like I'm more approachable. I'm more professional. That I can represent you better to administration, as well as in the upcoming year in planning. For those who are familiar with the Strengths Quest, my top strengths are achiever, analytical, strategic, individualization, so I find out what's unique about you and highlight that, activator, significance, and futuristic.
Thank you. I will start with Brandon and then Ryan, and you'll have 1 minute to respond. What will you do to increase the number of meaningful student jobs on campus?
The largest thing would be to support what efforts are already It would be to encourage what's already occurring through administration. They're looking at that. They're seeking a lot of opportunities. I just spoke with Ellen Trainer about the new graphic design center that's going to come, and that's going to provide a lot of well-paying jobs to junior and senior graphic design and art students. We would continue to look into fees, to additional ways in shifting the funding, if possible, to provide for those student jobs. It comes down to finding out more, knowing what administration already has planned, and advocating on behalf of you, the students, to provide additional opportunities for positive employment here on campus.
I know in a personal meeting, well not personal, in a meeting I was with President Wyatt, that this is one of his main objectives as well. Because as a student, it's easy to hold a job on campus. Now, part of that might be advocating for more hours on campus for services such as the gym, the cafeteria, things like that, to create more hours and jobs. Now, I can't guarantee that will happen, but going against that process. But then working with administration to where there are capable areas to make jobs. I know, for example, the athletic department was reworked, that opened up a lot more student jobs. And so it's just finding the places where we can have those jobs, and then paying attention to new things such as like a graphic design center or things that are opening, and finding ways we can implement student jobs and get funding for those jobs.
What will it be if you don't get elected?
I said earlier that if I'm not involved, I'm not doing SU right. And so my involvement will be just as it is now. I will be at front row of all games. I'll be supporting as many clubs and organizations as possible. And I will apply as a different position within SUSA under Mr. Brandon Day.
I would agree. If you aren't involved, you're missing out on a large part of the SU experience. I would be putting in my application the very same day to be involved in SUUSA. I'm already involved in adventure orientation, which is a new program here. I'm involved in various clubs and organizations and would continue to support what is already occurring and seeking to be involved in additional ways. I'm not going away.
All right, thank you. Now this question is for both of you. We'll begin with Brandon, and then we'll hear from Ryan. You'll have 1 minute to respond. One of the big initiatives this year was taking back the Student Center. Do you plan to move forward with this project? Are there entities currently inside the Student Center that you feel need to leave this building? And are there organizations outside this building that you feel need to be brought back into the Student Center?
Again, a great question. We do need to continue with taking back the Student Center. It's been en route for almost a decade, from what I understand. We have substantial funding, and I have heard that there will be substantial changes this summer. However, after speaking with President Jeff Hertig, there are a lot of details that are unknown to us that we would, whoever is elected, would be able to learn of the discussion that has occurred, be able to receive additional student feedback, and ultimately advocate on behalf of improving the Student Center, making it a more friendly and usable space throughout the day, on the weekends. One of my biggest frustrations this year has been having the birdhouse locked up on occasion, having the SUUSA offices locked up. It drives me crazy. This needs to be an open area, and we can evaluate what comes and goes with more details and more time.
One thing that I've been blessed with this year is the opportunity to work with Jeff Hertig and the EC of SUSA in this program and understand a lot of the hiccups, what needs to be changed, and things like that. So I'm very aware of what needs to happen, as well as, like Brandon said, the things that we still have to work out and debunk. So yes, I will be continuing that initiative. I think it's important to have a student center that is a destination so that students who come to SU want to stay here. I think that's a huge part of it. Now, as far as taking in, taking out, I think campus as a whole can be reorganized to where this center specifically is for students and services that specifically render to the students. So maybe it's getting more space for our outdoor center so that we can have more rentals. Maybe it's bigger space for our growing clubs, our multicultural clubs. Maybe it's reaching out and seeing which organizations also need new space, whether it's a Greek center, whether it's a center, expanding the Center for Women and Families, looking into things like a health clinic and things. But yes, I want to make sure that this space on campus is for students and always will be.
SUSA is responsible for the proper use of roughly $340,000 in student fees. Name one area you feel student fees were misused this last year, and one area you would seek to improve the use of student fees if elected.
That's a very good question. One area across the board, not a specific area, is that I feel student fees aren't used correctly, is just the transparency of the fees, where exactly they go, and more detailed feedback to students of how they're spent, why they're spent, and then getting feedback back if that's how the students want them to be spent. Not discrediting anything that anyone has done, but that would be my biggest initiative, is to get more feedback on how students want these fees, and then give them the results, the reports, how much is being spent on what, and make that a very open and available option for students.
Student fees are an interesting one. It was fascinating to sit through the Student Fee Review Committee, also acknowledging that the student body president presides at that meeting. There were a few fees that were up in question that I'm looking into if I would be elected. One of those that continues to come up is the journal and whether it's used as effective as possible, in addition to the student activity fee, what it goes to, how it's used, and so forth. There's significant improvements to be made. If I was elected, I would like to see more student fees available to students, more data and clarity on how they're used. And on that note, with these campaigning, we do have budgets. And for your information and clarity, Innovate has had $3,500 and they are down to $290. The U Party has had $3,250 and we still have $1,160 remaining. if that's a little option as to how well we can use your fees.
Comment on that, Ryan?
Yeah, I would like to rebuttal now. Brandon talks about the budgets, and that's open information, everyone. I'm glad he brings that up. I don't think necessarily using close to or almost all of your budget is necessarily a bad thing. Each year, those fees are meant for the students that are here. And if you, saving fees is great. I'm not talking about just wildly spending, but as effectively and responsibly spending that money to raise awareness and to make sure every student gets everything they can, because if not, leftover fees don't go back to the students. Those fees roll into scholarships or to rainy day funds for later, so will be used for students in the future. So if you pay that fee this year, it should be spent on you effectively and responsibly. So just because the money is spent doesn't mean that it's necessarily a negative.
All right, Brandon, do you have any rebuttal for that, or would you like to respond?
I would agree with that. We do need to spend the student fees that are received in that year. However, they do need to be evaluated. Hard decisions have to be made, and there can be very useful uses for those excess funds. The budgets that are in place can be adjusted, and more can be made available towards students, and it's not all about free food and goodies.
Thank you. All right, this next question will begin with Brandon, and then Ryan. You'll have 1 minute to respond. Compared to other institutional universities in Utah, do you believe tuition is too high at SUU? If not, why? If so, what specific plans would you take to ensure that tuition is not increased?
It's a big question on students' mind, and mine as well. It's gone up tremendously, it's about 32, 33 now. I came when it was around the 2,200 number per semester. The largest thing that we'll look into is continuing to cap the second tier tuition and advocating for you and receiving your help to lobby at the state legislature on Capitol Hill. SUU students have made at least 6 trips to the Capitol to lobby this year, and I was included in one of those. President Wyatt is pushing hard to shift how universities are funded from growth-based, which brought UVU $22 million, and that's $400,000, to more of a mission-based funding, which would put us near the top to receive that funding based on graduation rates.
Brandon makes an excellent point about lobbying with the legislator and the money about growth versus mission. And so I'm glad he made that point up. Working with President Wyatt to keep Tier 2 tuition capped is the first and best key. The other thing I would like to do is to aggressively review things that we can control. Now, it might not be thousands and thousands of dollars, but the student fees are reviewed every year, and an aggressive audit and understanding of what fees are needed where, and maybe adjustment of those fees can lower tuition as well. But other than that, it's working with administration and then students to make sure that it is capped.
Where do you see SU athletics 5 years from now, and what will you do to help us get there?
Athletics is on the rise, and fortunately I've had a chance to see it. I see us being competitive in our league. Now, we might have joined the Big Sky a little early, and running in the Big Sky with the lowest budget makes competition hard, but we've seen over the past 2 years how a dedicated coach and program can help increase our competition, which increases our exposure as a university and brings more students to us. My role is to make sure that there are athletic representation within the student government to help coaches and the department get as many students to support and help succeed in athletics.
Athletics, again, like the EDGE project, is not going away, and we need to support it. Are we ready for a vice president of athletics in SUUSA? Probably not. Do we need more than a director, though? I believe so. It's something that we need to work hand in hand with athletics on and utilize a lot more of their funding so that they aren't double dipping from your student fees. We are here to support them with the student fee review committee. Ken Beezer brought up that per win, we have the lowest cost for each one of those W's here at SUU in our conference.
Awesome, thank you. All right, we'll start with Brandon and Ryan. You'll have 1 minute to respond. You both want to advocate for the student voice. However, oftentimes student voices want opposing things. What will be your process for determining which student voice you will ultimately represent?
That's a great and tough question that needs to be asked. Because your feedback does vary. A lot of it's going to be based on numbers in many ways, the number of feedback, the arguments behind that feedback, and feeling what would be best for you as the student body as well as future students. In addition to that, knowing that we have your best interest at heart, that we're going to do the research, that we're going to look at other universities, not just in the state, but around the nation, that we're going to evaluate everything and make you aware of what we have as far as considerations. And again, just knowing that we have your best interest, and it's not about us, it's about you.
I don't think there's a defined perfect answer for every case where advocating starts to butt heads. So the first thing I know is that it will be taken on a case-by-case basis, and all the research and information from both sides will be taken in, considered, and not just heard and fluffed by the wayside, but plans for both ways to succeed or be accomplished. Now, as an elected leader, oftentimes you have to make the tough decision. So it's taking in who does this benefit, how much of the student body is benefited, does it hurt future students as well as current students, or is it a win-win situation where there's a possible way that both options can be had? And do we need to get faculty involved? Is it an administration question? Do we need to get different leaders that we haven't thought about before? So making sure that every avenue is addressed and then making a decision on a case-by-case basis as an elected leader is how I would handle opposing, advocating opinions.
So according to many students, SUUSA has become synonymous with activities. Accordingly, the student government aspect of SUUSA is often overlooked. There has been some discussion that STAB, the SUUSA activities branch, should be separated from student government, or in other words, have a student government organization and have an activities organization. Do you favor a separation of activities and student government? Why or why not?
I don't favor a separation because I feel that the programming entity of STAB within the government helps us to create a face for what student government is. Now, with that, creating the face and understanding that there is a different entity, an advocating entity, an actual student government hasn't been done as well. So working with Porter Sprout, if both elected, we want to utilize events to make sure that students know what else is going on, as well as not put all the focus on there. I know earlier in the debates, Tommy Gugino talked about marketing these different branches, such as Senate, but making sure that with the new digital marketing comes in, that it's not all just about the activities. Activities are a huge part of student life. That's why they need to be involved with the government, but there's also academic issues, administration issues, and club issues that will be pushed more to the forefront as well.
Ryan said it very well. I would not support at this point, unless given a lot of information that's very convincing, that we would need to separate the Student Activities Board. I've been a director in that this year. Is there additional focus that should go in other aspects that we oversee, especially pertaining to academics? Yes. By being involved, are there a lot of budget adjustments that should and could be made with staff? You bet. You would be surprised at how much activities cost, and we can put that money in other ways, and while partnering with clubs still provide you many opportunities to get out, to relax, to have fun, and to have that time. And for your information, I would like to see the Senate's budget continue to increase so that we can get more funding for you to attend your conferences and increase your academic opportunities.
Should professors be able to practice academic freedom and offer courses that don't assign student grades?
It's a very interesting question. One that I am not fully aware of. I'm sure there's been some research done that I would like to look into a little bit more before going into how I would best respond. but know that as that concern continues to be brought up by professors, we would need to see more data before we change, but I'm not opposed to seeing that change happen if it is in students' best interest for their academic uniqueness and branding and experience that will help them once they graduate.
I would look into it as well. A lot of research, like Brandon has said, is not done, especially on this campus. But if it's a concern of faculty, then I would work directly with Provost Cook, faculty members, as well as whoever the Vice President of Academics is, to further explore that option. Now, it could be something like Edge, where we're a revolutionary school in providing a program like that. But no matter what happens, I wouldn't let it be implemented without some beta testing, without making sure it's what students really want, as well as can be balanced between faculty and students.
How will you use all funds in your present account to help all students and not just SUSA?
That's a great question. I think having representation and clear communication with all students is the first key. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to be the easiest thing to make sure that every student, but by having a more diverse group of directors working in SUSA, as well as having open communication with clubs and organizations on campus, and figuring out what their needs are, and then seeing ways that we can either co-sponsor or sponsor, but allow their names to be the forefront and them to gain the traction that they need, whether it's allowing a club like Hip Hop, who just had a dance, to co-sponsor with the Scream and make sure that they have their face in their properties on. That's just an example, though.
Thank you. This next question will...
The president's budget is separate and distinct from clubs, from academics, and from staff. It's used for special projects deemed worthy by the student body president, and so it would need to access across campus. We would continue to improve the MySUU Voice campaign to provide opportunities for all students to give feedback. We would look at continuing to increase the digital marketing that is going up to access various parts of campus and help them. We would continue to further the Thunderbird statue project, which will benefit all students, and look into any other projects or initiatives that are voiced or that come up that can be a wise use of those funds.
Thank you. Sorry about the interruption.
You're fine.
So now we'll begin with you, Brandon, and you'll have 30 seconds to respond. So no candidate possesses all the requisite skills and knowledge they need in office. In what areas would you look to improve if elected?
In myself,
Yes.
it would be in empowerment and delegation of my team and those who I will work with. We've gotten a big taste with our campaign. A lot of people have asked us who's our PR manager, and we don't have one. It's been a complete team effort. We all have different strengths and weaknesses. As we come together, the emphasis should not be on which weaknesses we should improve, but acknowledging that we do have weaknesses and being comfortable enough to rely on those team members who have the strengths that you don't.
One specific thing that I know that I can work on is making sure that my vision and ideals are very clear and being a little more transparent with that. So that would be the first thing that I would improve on, is ways to express that the most effective way. It's not that I don't want people to know, but it's what is the best avenue to make sure that the students know what my goals are and as after getting their feedback and how that is going. So that would be the first thing I would improve. And then the last thing is, I know that I like to do everything myself, and to go along with Brandon is making sure I have a good team and delegate people who have strengths where my weaknesses are.
What should your GPA tell us about your ability to be SUSA president?
Having a GPA that is not just standard, but above the standard, should tell you that you are worthy to be the president because you're able to balance your personal needs with the needs of the students. Overall, even as student body president, you come to school to get an education. And if you can keep a high GPA, especially way above the standard of what is set by the Constitution, it shows that you're able to balance, communicate, and coordinate, and collaborate with everything that you need to do as a president.
Again, Ryan has said it very well. It does set you apart, not necessarily on intellect, but on work ethic, on perseverance, on utilization of resources. I would also argue that some people let grades get in the way of their education. And as student body president, you need to be ready to be as involved as you can while balancing that schoolwork, but being okay with some lower grades. I've been on the dean's list twice, got a 4.0 last semester. This semester it's not going to be that way, and it's totally fine because I'm with you.
Thank you. All right, we'll have one more question, and then we'll open it up for closing remarks. So we'll start with Brandon and Ryan. Got it right this time. You both worked with Jeff Ertig, who served 2 years as student body president. Like all humans, he was not perfect. What would you do differently if elected as president?
Jeff is a great man. He is not perfect. For me, it's been very difficult to access him, to see him around, to be able to have open conversation, and a lot of that's because of how busy he is. And so if I was elected, I would do what we've been doing for our campaign, to try and be ubiquitous, to be found around campus as President Wyatt is, to be at your events, to have that representation, to be open and friendly, to be able to have you have our contact details, to give you my phone number, my email, office hours, whatever you need. I'll be there for you.
This is the first time I've ever heard Jeff Ertig is perfect, so it might take me a second to get my answer. I've learned a lot from Jeff, and similar to Brandon, the only thing that I've ever seen that I've been like, oh man, that's too bad, is one time I was with students that didn't know that Jeff was the president and what he's done, but also didn't know who he was so they couldn't hold him accountable. So my idea is to be a face of SU, not that this position for me is entitled for me to be like, look at me, I'm the president, but so that students know who they can go to, and then just like Brandon said, to make myself available, not just in my office, but around campus, to work with the senators from our party who I know are going to make themselves available to students in their buildings and to help there, to be at events, to go to meetings, to help any way I can, but just that the students know who their president is, and that he's here for them no matter what they need.
We'll hear our closing remarks first from Ryan and then Brandon. And just remember to vote on your portal.
First of all, I want to thank everyone for coming out. I don't know if everyone knows my intentions with this position. I think a lot of people see it as me trying to gain status within the university, but I can assure you that it's not. I have a deep love for this university and the students that go here. Once again, I wouldn't have succeeded at college if it wasn't for this. And I feel like I'm the best candidate to move forward with the change that is going to happen on this campus. As a young boy, I grew up on a farm, and we would travel far distances to see a veterinarian. And it never made sense to me, especially after a veterinarian moved closer to town. As I asked my father, why would we travel far when there's a vet in town? He says, because we travel far for the best, because the best is always worth it. I believe in this university, I believe in my team Innovate, and I believe that we are the best team to lead this upcoming year in the Student Association this year. So vote for the best. Remember, a vote for Innovate is a vote for the student body.
Again, thank you for your time. I would encourage each of you to make an informed decision. Continue to speak with us and ask us questions. As much as platforms are there, we're going to be making hundreds, if not thousands, of decisions for you behind closed doors. You need to have confidence in our characteristics, our attributes, our abilities, and our heart. I know that our team has your best interests at heart. We wouldn't have entitled our whole effort and campaign "You" if it wasn't for you. The brackets symbolize the ability to insert. You can imagine your own name inside those parentheses. We are here for you. Some spell team with I. We tend to spell it with you. Thank you for your participation. Check out our YouTube channel for these debates. We want you to be aware, and so we have provided those for you as part of our efforts to be ubiquitous and transparent. Thank you.